Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us once again today. Welcome back. We are discussing today natural person. You know that very recently the guide has been issued by the Federal Tax Authority. The natural person are liable to register for corporate tax purposes. We have already discussed so many times that what are the natural person, what are the juridical persons, what are the registration requirement. This guide is further clarification on the law as well as on the cabinet decision, ministerial decisions already issued by the respective authorities. So whatever we have discussed, we have already conducted 39 webinars almost on every week. So I believe we have already discussed the natural person as well. It should be in the scope of the UAE corporate tax law. Registration, free zones, taxable person, it should be here principally. Taxable person, which are the taxable person, which are not the taxable person. So natural person are liable to register for corporate tax. I'm going back to the very basic slide that this is I have prepared. It will give you very comprehensive scenario that already discussed that the persons can be classified into exempt persons, out of scope persons, or taxable persons. These taxable persons can further be classified into the resident taxable person, non-resident taxable persons. In the resident taxable persons, we are discussing here natural persons who are conducting business in the UAE. That natural person are liable to register for corporate tax for their worldwide income related to that business only. We have already discussed this. Moreover, we have discussed whenever we are discussing these taxable person, these taxable persons can be a resident taxable person, it can be natural, it can be juridical taxable persons. In the resident taxable person, we discussed sole establishment, unincorporated partnerships. Then we said if the annual business income of the natural person up to 1 million, natural person is not liable to register. If the annual business income is 1 million to 3 million, they are liable to register. And they can avail small business relief up to the financial year ending 31st December 2026. And then if the annual business income is more than 3 million, then they said they are liable to register. They will be liable to pay 0% tax up to 375,000. Any income more than 375,000, it will be subject to tax at 9%. This is what we have already discussed, by the way. Now we will discuss in detail what they mentioned in the guide basically. The Federal Tax Authority issued a Corporate Tax Guide, CTG Corporate Tax Guide Resident Non-Natural Person 1. Registration of natural person. They provided additional information, basically what is the scope of corporate tax on the natural person, how to get themselves registered, what are the compliance requirements for the natural person. Natural person who are in the scope of corporate tax are required to register for corporate tax purposes. This will allow them to fulfill their corporate tax obligations, such as submit a corporate tax return and paying any corporate tax dues or whatever is the amount. Now discuss how persons can be classified. We know this. These are two types of persons. It can be a juridical person, then natural person. This, you know what the definition of the juridical persons. The juridical person, they said any juridical person which is distinct from its founders, owners, or directors. So basically, juridical person is a separate thing. Owners, directors, and founder, these are separate things. But in case of national person, there is no difference in between the owners and the national person. We'll discuss the examples as well. For the examples of the juridical person, we'll discuss so many times that limited liability company, foundation structure that as a legal entity, onshore trust, public, private, joint stock company, and any other independent legal entities. When we were discussing about the natural person, we said there's no difference in between the individual who is conducting the business and the business itself. We discussed the definition like We'll discuss the definition that sole establishment, unincorporated partnerships, or natural person working as a freelancer, and any work that is required for which the businesses or the individual is liable to take the approval commercial license from the respective government, and there no difference in between the individual and the respective business. That's a natural person. We cannot simply say that natural persons are the only persons, individual. No, if the individual are setting up any company like sole establishment, as I said, unincorporated partnership, or wherever the individual are working as a freelancer after taking a license from the respective government authority, they will fall under the definition of natural person. Then we said a resident person, resident natural person. We established in the very beginning in this webinar as well, earlier as well, if the natural person is conducting a business in the UAE, so it will be considered a resident person in the UAE. Suppose Mr. A is running a sole establishment, they are buying and selling commodities. There's no difference in between A and the respective trading company. So trading company and A, it will be considered a natural person. So this natural person will be considered resident for corporate tax purposes. In the same way, Mr. B is acting as a freelancer after taking a license from a respective government authority. So these freelance activities fall under the definition of natural person. It will be assumed that the natural person conducting business in the UAE, so this natural person will be considered a resident taxable person. So natural person, if the natural person is living in the UAE, is conducting business in the UAE, this is for sure it will be a resident person. But there is a possibility that if the natural person, if the individual is living out of the UAE, they are conducting business in the UAE. So if someone is living, assuming in UK and conducting business in the UAE, so the law in the guide, they have given further clarification. This is the only important thing that I found in the guide. Rest of the things are very straightforward and simple. We discuss the guide as well. So they say if the natural person, if the individual is living out of the UAE and there no double tax treaty in between the other country and the UAE, and individual is conducting business in the UAE, then still the individual will be considered a resident person for corporate tax purposes for UAE, and the individual will be liable to pay tax on any income related to the business that is in the UAE. So assuming A is living in UAE, sorry, in UK, and there is an entity that they are conducting business in the UAE. There is possibility the two countries, UK and UAE. If someone is living in UAE, conducting business in the UAE, this is 100% resident for the UAE corporate tax law. There is a possibility someone is living in UK, living in this country, but they are conducting business here in the UAE. There are no double tax treaty in between UAE and UK. They said still this Mr. A, whoever is, it will be considered resident for corporate tax purposes in the UAE. Third possibility is that someone is living in the UK. Here, Mr. A is still living in the UK, but they are conducting business in the UAE. There is a double tax treaty. Yes, double tax treaty exists in between UK and UAE. If the double tax treaty exists in between the two countries, then generally based upon this double tax treaty, wherever the person is living, that person A will be considered a resident taxable person for UK. So if A is the resident taxable person for UK, so whatever the business of A in the UAE, they said it will be considered PE of the non-resident person in the UAE. So this A will be liable to pay tax on the income related to this PE in the UAE. So let me clarify once again. So what are the possibilities? Possibilities are UAE, UK. UAE. Living in UAE, conducting business in the UAE, resident in the UAE. The possibility again. Living in the UK, conducting business in the UAE, there no double tax treaty, still it will be considered as 100% resident of the UAE. Third scenario is living in the UK, conducting business in the UAE, and this there are double tax treaty in between. Once based upon double tax treaty, A will become a resident person for the UK, and this person will become a non-resident taxable person for the UAE. It will assume that the PE of the non-resident person in the UAE, this person A will be liable to pay tax in the UAE, any income related to the PE of the non-resident person in the UAE. This is the most important thing for me, what they have provided in the guide. Now we can say a natural person will fall in the scope of corporate tax that are registered for corporate tax purposes. So even the natural person conducting business in the UAE as a resident person or PE of the non-resident person, in both of the cases, natural person is liable to register for corporate tax in the UAE. And we have already discussed, it doesn't matter they have one transaction, millions of transaction, losses, profits, it doesn't matter. A will be liable to register even they have a single transaction, zero transaction, until they have a business there, they have an active trade license, they will be liable to register for corporate tax purposes. So I'm summarizing the discussion. The A, the resident person. Yes, we have already discussed. A, the business in the UAE or living in the UAE or living out of the UAE business, there no double tax treaty, it will be a resident. Or there is a possibility non-resident person with a PE in the UAE, there is a possibility, this possibility as well. We clarify on a business or business activity in respect of which the revenue is more than 1 million. We have already discussed revenue more than 1 million. Whenever we are calculating this 1 million, we should not consider any income that the A is receiving or the any individual is receiving in the form of salaries, wages, personal investment, real estate investment, because this is the personal income. This personal income will not be considered while calculating the business income of 1 million. An important thing is whenever we are calculating this 1 million, all the businesses of the individual, A, B, C, here is a freelancer, sole establishment, another sole establishment, another business. There is a Mr. A sitting here. He is taking care of all these businesses. Income from all these businesses will be considered to calculate this 1 million. This is the important thing. Second more important thing is whenever this 1 million is being calculated, it has been given in the guide and it was clear in the law as well that we need to consider the income before the deduction of any expenses. Means we need to consider the revenue before the deduction of any expenses. All types of revenues will be considered before the deductions of any expenses to calculate this threshold of 1 million dirham. The residing and doing business in the UAE, we have already discussed, it will be considered tax resident. If residing out of the UAE, then double tax treaty exists or double tax treaty doesn't exist. If doesn't exist, then still it will be resident. If double tax treaty exists, generally, I'm asking generally, but this is not hard and fast principle. Generally, such persons is invoked. Generally, they are considered non-resident for UAE corporate tax purposes. Non-resident for UAE corporate tax purposes, they will be of the non-resident person. But still, whatever the business in the UAE, they will be liable to pay tax on that business in the UAE. So natural person conducting business or business activity in the UAE generating annual revenue of more than 3 Gregorian calendar year are record or registered UAE corporate tax law that we already discussed. Now they must file the CT return and are responsible for making any necessary payments. Okay. The eligibility of small business leave doesn't exempt. Okay. We have already discussed, even this is the natural person, they having income more than 1 million, less than 3 million, they can avail small business relief. But it doesn't matter, they are not liable to register. They need to register, they need to avail the small business relief, and they will be liable to submit the return, I believe, as well. Important thing is they will not be liable to pay any corporate tax. But being if you are availing a small business relief, it doesn't mean that you are exempt from the registration of the corporate tax. The overall revenue should be assessed on accrual basis. Will you follow the accrual basis or will you follow the cash basis? Law allows that if your business revenue is up to 3 million dirham, you can apply cash basis of accounting. If your business revenue is three different grades basically, revenue is more than 50 million, 3 million to 50 million, up to 3 million. If up to 3 million, you can apply cash basis. 3 to 50 million, you can need to apply accrual basis of accounting. More than 50 million, you need to apply accrual basis. Audit requirement I will discuss earlier. This is not compulsory here. Not compulsory here. Here this audit is compulsory. Then financial statement, you can prepare the financial statement on cash basis here. Here, you need to prepare IFRS for SMEs, accrual basis here for full-fledged IFRS. So either you are applying accrual basis or cash basis, whatever the method you are applying to calculate your revenue, you need to apply the same basis to calculate your taxable revenue for a business revenue of 1 million. The overall revenue should be assessed based upon the accrual basis of accounting, unless the natural person is using cash basis of accounting. We know when they will be using the cash basis of accounting, when they will be using the accrual basis of accounting. Whatever the mechanism, as I mentioned, we are using, we need to apply the same mechanism to calculate the overall revenue of the natural person. Then the tax period for the natural person consistently follows the Gregorian calendar year, commencing 1st of Jan and ending 31st of December. While computing a natural person gross and total revenue from all businesses will be considered before deducting costs that we already discussed. I already highlighted this as well. However, the income from salaries, personal investment, and real estate investment will not be factored, will not be considered while calculating revenue of 1 million dirham. So UAE resident natural persons are required to pay tax on their global income. We have already discussed, if the person is a resident person, whatever is the business income related to that business in the UAE, globally they will be liable to pay tax on that. If they're non-resident persons, whatever the business income related to the UAE, they will be liable to pay tax on that income within the UAE. So wherever the non-resident natural persons are obligated to pay tax on income associated with the non-resident natural person P in the UAE. So how will we establish, okay, this income pertains to UAE and this income doesn't pertains to UAE? This criteria has been given in the guide as well. There we need to consider the following factors. What are those factors? In determining whether income is connected to business activities in the UAE, one must take into account the several factors. What are those factors? First of all, the location and residency of the individual involved in producing or selling of goods and services. Important thing, location and residency of the individual. If the individual is within the UAE, they are resident of the UAE, means 100% income needs to go pertains to the UAE. They will be liable to pay tax on that income in the UAE. Whether contracts or business development related to selling of the goods, if the contract is being executed in the UAE, business development is being done in the UAE, it doesn't matter wherever is the person, it will be considered UAE income and the person will be liable to pay tax in the UAE. Where the assets contributing the production of goods or provision of service are located, the assets that are being used in the production of the goods, it doesn't matter wherever the individual is living. If the assets are within the UAE, from those assets revenue is being generated. Suppose, just look into this example. This is soda establishment, they have a factory in the UAE. A person is sitting again in the UK. Person is based there, factory there. From this factory they are generating the revenue. Now they are asking, okay, this income doesn't pertain to UAE. No, this income pertains to the UAE because the assets factory, from this revenue is being generated, those assets are in the UAE. This income needs to be taxed in the UAE as well. It doesn't matter wherever the individual is living. So I believe this is very clear. So at the natural person already registered, even you are registered for VAT, even you are registered for excise duty, even you are registered for custom duty. Still, if you are eligible, then you need to get yourself registered for corporate tax as well, because a lot of people are asking, they have already registered for corporate tax. Sorry, they are already registered for VAT, they are already registered for excise duty, they are already registered custom duty. Do they need to get themselves registered again? Of course, because this is a separate taxation. Those are separate taxation. You need to get yourself registered for corporate tax as well. This diagram has been given in the guide, which is very simple, person applicable. The simple crux is basically you need, if you are eligible, you need to apply to the FTA for the registration. If they are not registering, they are basically asking to giving you some queries. You need to resubmit the application after addressing the queries from the FTA. If this is being approved by the FTA, you will be issued a certificate as you will be considered a corporate tax registered person. If you are, once you are registered, you are liable to pay you are liable to submit the corporate tax return within 9 months from the end of the relevant tax period. and you will be liable to pay the tax amount as well if the amount is due. In case of any losses you have refund, then losses can be carried forward. A refund will be adjusted in the future as well. You need to retain the record for at least 7 years and ensuring that all registration is up to date, inform to FT, and if there are any changes in the FT Imara portal, you need to apply, you need to inform the FTA within 20 business days. Important thing is FTA started applying penalties if your information is not updated on the Imara portal. You need to be careful regarding this, otherwise you may be subject to penalties. Deregistration, once you are registered, you cannot deregistered unless and until you are winding up the business. There's no other way. Assuming your revenue was more than 1 million, 1 million revenue, you applied for registration, you got the registration. Next year, revenue has gone up to 100,000, assuming. It doesn't mean you need to get yourself registered. You cannot get yourself registered. Even you have a, suppose, business A, B, C, D, multiple businesses. This business you have winded up, this winded up, this winded up. You are a natural person. If you are running one business, even still you need to maintain the same registration. You cannot deregister yourself. As I mentioned, you cannot deregister unless and until all your businesses have been winded up. And before winding up the business, you will be, before deregistration, you will be liable to pay all outstanding liabilities to the Federal Tax Authority. Then you can deregister. So this is a, we can go through the guide very quickly, and I believe nothing will be unusual, but still I believe we need to go through the guide very quickly together. This is the guide. Hope you will be able to see this. Okay, registration. This is the guide as I mentioned. These are the definitions. We'll be keep discussing all those guides in the future as well. I'll try my best to discuss whatever the guide that has already been issued by the FTA. I'll try to save some time. So we'll discuss the previous guides as well. It will be quite helpful for all of you. So I have highlighted the key area that we can discuss. Okay, who is the taxable person? Most taxable persons are required to register for corporate tax purpose. The exception registration drive on state source income without having a PE in the UAE. Yes, we all are very clear on this. If someone is generating state source income and this state source income not related to the PE, not related to the nexus in the UAE, and then in that case, the person is not liable to register. If someone is getting dividend income, if someone is getting capital gain, so it will be considered state source income not related to the PE, not related to the nexus in the UAE. So that person in this situation will not be liable to register. This line is very, very unusual for me. I have highlighted it. Basically, they are asking sole establishment is a trading business owned by natural persons. So we need to get some sort of more clarity on this. Other than trading business, they cannot go any other business being a sole establishment. This is my question. This is the reason I have highlighted it. For minors and impact, this is another good line. Basically, if you are a minors or individual, then you will be still, you are conducting a business as sole establishment, still you will be liable to register, but the legal representative will be liable to present you in front of the Federal Tax Authority. So another highlight is actually if natural person has not invoked this, we have already discussed in detail when the double tax treaty is invoking and when this double tax treaty is not invoking. If invoking, what will be the treatment? If not invoking, what will be the treatment? This is the same thing that we already discussed. This is summary that we discussed as well. This is another line basically good for the interpretation. They are asking losses if someone is conducting the business, even you are making one transaction, millions of transaction, 10 to 5, it doesn't matter. If you are conducting business, you are subject to corporate tax. Conducting business means you are doing any activity regularly. They are asking carrying with the law is not using the carrying on the business. They are asking conducting the business. So conducting one time, it may be multiple times. When this income related to the business, we have discussed basically this in detail. Three factors are there. General and natural person, non-resident, such person only be subject to tax for the business. We have already discussed this as well. So turnover is the sum of all the income before the costs are deducted. Discuss this as well. This will not be considered, but we have discussed this thing as well. Wages, they have defined the wages. They say employer and employee relationship. If the employee is getting anything from the employer in being an employee, it may be in the form of cash or it may be in the form of consideration. Still, it will be considered wages. Personal investment is can either through a licensing authorities, a personal investment. You are doing this activity without getting any license. You are making any investment which doesn't require any license, so it will be considered a personal investment. Real estate investment, then the real estate investment, they have included selling, leasing, subleasing, renting of the real estate, where you are not required to have any license to do these activities. So it will fall under the real estate investment. In case you are required to have a license, then it will fall under the commercial activity. You will be subject to tax. Individual not required to have any license, then it will be assumed that you are going to in your personal capacity. These are the few examples. You can go through these very quickly. Okay, I believe these are very straightforward examples. Nothing. Natural person, share joint stock company, business from the company, income from the share personal investment, because share in the company not requiring license. Natural person develop accounting software at home. They are developed accounting software. From the software, they are generating revenue, means they are doing business. Natural person is shareholder of a UAE joint stock company and opens an independent car rental business. They basically from this joint stock company, whatever they are getting, this income will not be subject to tax because it doesn't require any license. But if they are doing independent car agency business and the revenue is more than 1 million from this agency business, they will be subject to corporate tax. Natural person employed by a UE limited liability company sells two personal car. Two personal car is selling, it doesn't require any license, it will not be subject to corporate tax. But if they are buying and selling car on a frequent basis, means they are doing the commercial activity, then they will be subject to tax. Natural person drive rental income 1.5 million from two apartments. Personal apartments rental income more than 5 million, 1.5 million, it will not be subject to corporate tax because they are personal real estate investment. Definition of turnover, there we've already discussed gross turnover without deducting any cost in a Gregorian calendar year. Accrual basis, the cash basis we'll discuss as well. Eligibility for small business leave, it doesn't affect the natural person not liable to register. They need to get themselves registered. Tax period was we will discuss for the natural person 1st Jan till 31st December. If during the year they start up the business during the year and they cross the threshold during the year, they will be liable to corporate tax. It doesn't matter you cross the threshold in 1 month or multiple months. Receiving wages and personal investment income. Wages and personal investment income both will not be subject to tax. Dividend from investment, it depends. Dividend, if you are getting from the local, being a taxable person, sorry, if you are getting a dividend from a local juridical person, you are a resident, you're getting dividend from the local juridical person, it will be exempt. Sorry, individual is getting dividend, it will not be subject to tax. Companies getting dividend, it will be exempt. Non-resident person getting dividend, it will state source income. So you can, okay, natural person after small bakery in UAE decided to buy shares in the company C using the business account company C to flour production, company flour to the bakery. During the calendar year, natural person received 500 in the form of dividend. Natural person is getting dividend, it will not be subject to tax. You have personal investment in the shares. Turnover of the bakery for the 900,000. 900,000, therefore the natural person total revenue 1.4 million. So this will not be subject to tax. This is less than 1 million, natural person will not be liable to register because the natural person is considered in case the less than 1 million. If this income would have been gone more than 1 million, then it would have been subject to tax. But important thing is in this, they are asking this natural person operator small bakery buy share in the company C. Income from bakery 9, dividend from company C 500,000, total turnover 1.4 million. Natural person need in case to meet the 1 million threshold. No need to read it again. Natural person operate a small bakery in the UAE. Okay, they are operating a small bakery in the UAE and decided to buy shares in the company C using the business account. Important thing is this line is very important, which I missed. Basically, now the investment is not being made by the natural person. This investment is being made by the company. If this investment is being made by the company, so it will be considered company business income. So that's why. So this investment made by the company's investment income, company dividend income is 500,000. Income from the bakery is 900,000. Company overall is getting 1.4 million, which is more than 1 million. That's why then this natural person is subject to tax. If this investment would have been made from the natural persons in personal capacity instead of from the company account, then this investment would have been as investment in the personal investment, it will not be subject to corporate tax. For the tax registration process for corporate tax, the registration process is simple. You can go through this, no complexity. What are mandatory? Person already registered. You need, if you already registered for VAT, excise duty, still you need to apply for registration for the corporate tax as well. Obligation once registered, ensuring all his obligations with 20, that we already discussed this thing as well. Natural person for corporate tax. Mr. Y is US resident natural person that has conducted business in Dubai since 2014. Calendar year, Mr. Total turnover exceeded 1 million, therefore business would have been applied to register for corporate tax for the year 2025. However, he failed to do so. So this is very simple. If you have failed to do so, so you will be liable to pay tax from the date you were liable to register for corporate tax. Session, it doesn't matter. We already discussed in detail. One business has multiple businesses. Unless and until you have a single license, even the revenue is less than 1 million, you cannot deregister yourself. And if you are winding up everything, you need to apply for deregistration within 3 months from the date of the session of from the winding up of the business. Why I have highlighted it? Deregistration obligation. Mr. A is a UAE resident operating a business in the UAE. His tax period runs from the 1st of Jan till 31st December. Ceased trading on 31st December. On 30th March, 31st December 2025. Okay. On 3rd Jan 2026, Mr. made application FT to be registered, deregistered for corporate tax purpose. Last return filed has not filed. Okay. Basically, they are asking before registration, deregistration, you need to finalize final return, apply the related payment and penalty as well. Then you will be deregistered. Otherwise, you will not be deregistered. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Again, once again, being with me, appreciate your time. And if you have any question, you are most welcome. Where can I see your questions? Okay, view. Unfortunately, not good at IT. So anyway, okay, guys, apologies, I cannot see your question, and you can drop me an email if you have any question regarding this. And better drop me an email if you have any question. It will be player supporting you. Definitely, I'll come back on this. So thank you very much for being with me, and have a lovely day. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.